Thank you for joining us. I'm Angelina King. From heavy rainfall and flooding to high winds and a tornado, the weekend wreaked havoc in Ontario. We're talking about the weather, of course. And just when the cleanup began in some areas, rescue crews were sent to another. Lisa Shing has the latest.
One of the busiest highways in the Greater Toronto area, now submerged.
There was one car where the occupants were stranded or stuck in the car. The other two had self-evacuated, so they were on the side of the highway.
5 cars got stuck here. Now that the passengers are safe, fire crews are clearing debris so the water can drain properly. This work going on for the second day now, after flooding caused roads to turn into rivers.
Yesterday we saw 22 water rescues in 3 separate locations. And then in addition to that, we had 8 elevator rescues.
Severe weather also hit other parts of southern Ontario. In the town of Ayr, about an hour and a half west of Toronto, cleanup is underway after a tornado touched down Saturday morning.
We all went to the basement, got my dog, and happened very quick, like 5 seconds it was over. And yeah, we came outside, looked around. Everything was ruined.
There are no reports of injuries, though many homes and a business were damaged. Half of Diana Barber's roof now gone.
It was very scary. Yeah, it was very scary. But you know what? It's funny. You just don't think it's going to happen to you.
Toronto's Pearson Airport saw a record 128 millimeters of rain Saturday in what's already been the rainiest summer on record. In July, heavy rain shut down major roadways in Toronto, including a major highway. It left drivers stranded and the busiest transit hub in the country at a standstill.
That is exactly what's predicted to happen with climate change. As the hot air gets hotter, it holds more water, and so we get more rain.
Experts are urging all levels of government to find ways for cities to better weather the effects of climate change.
When we think about sewer systems and stormwater systems, it's like expensive to upgrade. So we do need to invest.
Experts say all levels of government have to work together to come up with solutions, and some say a key part of that is launching an assessment to address Canada's infrastructure needs. That's something the Liberal government promised a number of years ago, but it hasn't fulfilled that promise yet. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
And it's really been a summer of severe weather here in Ontario. Let's bring in Sophia Cambalia for more on what's causing all of this and also what lies ahead. But first, Sophia, just tell us what kind of spurred all of this on this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now what instigated this weekend of extreme weather and historic flooding. It was this upper-level low-pressure system that trudged slowly across the province throughout this weekend, creating the perfect environment for storms to slowly swirl around it. We also talked about why the storms have really stalled out this weekend with the drenching rainfall, right? Lake breeze boundaries. Yesterday, these stop signs or these traffic jams of storms set up in the west end of the GTA, creating all of that flooding in places like Mississauga and Etobicoke. Today, though, they set up around Cottage Country, creating drenching and torrential rain for places like Gravenhurst and Huntsville and Haliburton and Bancroft. In fact, we had swirling storms across the entire region. We did have more storms come through over the afternoon and evening hours around some of the areas that were hit very hard yesterday. It's why we saw all of that additional flooding on the 410, the closures of all the roadways. We also watched for some rotation in some of the clouds, especially around the Hamilton area. Some potent storms in the nation's capital region, along with a slew of rainfall warnings all across the province. Now, things really started to die down around the evening hours, that 8-9 o'clock hour when we lost the fuel of the sunshine, that daytime heating, and this northwest flow really kicked in. And tomorrow, it's going to feel like an entirely different season. This high pressure has come in, wringing out the atmosphere, and it's going to feel, in fact, like sweater weather. Believe it or not, Monday will be about 5 degrees below seasonal. Some of you might not even make it into the 20s. That cool down continues for Tuesday state, but we are not out of the woods yet, folks. We still have high water levels in creeks and waterways. Be careful of low-lying waterways. Do not attempt to drive in any moving water. There is still overland flooding. Coming up on the long range, we'll talk more about the incredible stats. That's nearly half a meter of rainfall this summer. The majority of it, a summer's worth of rainfall, came down really in just a few of the afternoon hours yesterday. We'll talk more about it in the long range and talk about the chance for a few storms that could still come up in the nation's capital region tomorrow. But really, we're in the clear tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Sophia. And leaders from municipalities across the province are in Ottawa today for the annual Association of Municipalities of Ontario Conference, or AMO. Some of the pressing issues on the agenda this year include the province's housing shortage, climate change, access to health care, and the opioid crisis. More than 2,500 mayors, councillors, and municipal staff will be in discussions about these issues over the next few days. Premier Doug Ford is expected to deliver his remarks tomorrow. A person is dead after a fire in Etobicoke last night.
There was visible flames through the front window. Crews managed to get the fire under control very quickly. During the course of firefighter operations, one occupant was found in the premises. Sadly, Toronto paramedics have since pronounced that individual deceased.
Toronto Fire was called to the scene near Lakeshore West and Miles Road just before 7 p.m. The Ontario Fire Marshal has been notified of the incident and is investigating. And also last night, a 23-year-old man died after a crash in Mississauga. The OPP say it happened just after 6 o'clock when the car rolled into a ditch while going southbound on Highway 410. The driver was taken to hospital in critical condition where he later died. No one else was in the vehicle. With Mpox now deemed a global health emergency for the second time, many Torontonians are wanting to get vaccinated against the disease. But there's a bit of a problem. There are no public appointments available for the next few weeks. The CBC's Brittany Billette reports.
When Tim Hilliard tried to make an appointment for his Mpox vaccine nearly 2 weeks ago through Toronto Public Health, he discovered he couldn't get it for at least a month.
I'm disappointed, especially when they're encouraging people to get vaccinated and then there are none available.
And still today, no appointments are available on TPH's website until September 7th.
I think they could have been better prepared.
This week, the World Health Organization deemed Mpox a global health emergency. The highly contagious disease can cause skin lesions and a fever that can be fatal. TPH says there was a spike in reported cases in late June and July. The latest numbers from TPH show as of July 31st, there were 93 confirmed cases in Toronto. During the same period last year, there were 21 cases.
It is a missed opportunity.
The executive director of a Queer and Health Trans Research Center says the city should do more to support vaccination.
It's important that when community members do step up to get vaccinated, that there are slots available for them. I think the fact that the WHO has recently declared this a public health emergency of international concern is actually quite important because it helps ensure that public health resources are put into place as quickly as possible.
In a statement, Toronto Public Health said that there isn't a supply issue, but because of the surge in demand, they'll create more vaccine appointment availability.
Like all interactions around sexual health, it's really important for providers to sort of try and be as judgment-free as possible.
TPH says Mpox is currently affecting men who have sex with other men and is mostly spread through close physical contact. Community health advocates say for some, there is stigma around getting vaccinated.
People really need those 2 shots, not just 1, but 2 shots to get the best protection from Mpox that they can. So I want to see people get vaccinated, but I want to see them get those 2 shots 1 month apart, because otherwise their immune response won't be strong.
Advocates also say it's important those who get vaccinated know they'll need to do it again.
If there's wider spread and we don't have more people vaccinated, that's going to be a problem.
Toronto Public Health says it'll be running a vaccine clinic at Metro Hall on Saturday, August 24th, and those who are eligible are encouraged to make an appointment online. Brittany Billette, CBC News, Toronto.
It's been a stressful weekend for some families and business owners near Toronto's Kensington Market. They were evacuated from their building that looked like it was about to collapse, and now the community is coming together to help in any way that they can. Adam Khan has the story.
A worried community, puzzled, grappling with the aftermath of a sudden demolition of part of a building.
Their people live there. Now they can't. That's sad. Look, that's a kid's room right there. All their stuff is still sitting there.
Neighbors eager to help, like this roofer.
I'm just going to pitch in my expertise and help them out how I can. Right?
Ryan Fitzgerald says he knows an elderly couple who lives in the building and owns a convenience store there. But now they're staying with family. He plans to help fix their roof.
It's a really older man and an older woman. I think they're about in their 70s or 80s. They don't speak a lot of English, so my heart just bleeds for them.
The building was deemed unsafe by the city a decade ago, but according to online city records, an order to fix it was left unresolved. More recently, the building began leaning toward the sidewalk and was in danger of collapsing. Toronto Fire said it received reports about the building on Friday. The city said it removed the unsafe structure Saturday, but also deemed the rest of the building unsafe, leaving 8 families without a home. This community group says neighbors are helping in any way they can, including by donating essentials and...
One of the tenants I gave my room to, and that's why I'm out here in the countryside.
She says many residents are in precarious situations, living with friends or family.
It's not been an easy transition, right? A lot of people are already struggling to find housing. The shelter system is already pretty packed.
With the large part of the road blocked, this nearby business owner says he's losing foot traffic and says the whole situation could have been avoided if the building was fixed years ago.
I kind of expect this to happen some point because for the past few years it's been leaning a little bit, the gap has been widening a little bit, so I wasn't surprised at all.
The city saying it's in contact with the owners of the building to figure out the next steps to allow tenants back in. And also says the tenants have been in contact with the Canadian Red Cross for support. Anam Khan, CBC News, Toronto.
There could be some major supply chain disruptions as Canada's 2 main railway companies are on the brink of a possible work stoppage. A 72-hour strike notice was issued tonight by the union representing workers at Canadian Pacific Kansas City. Thousands of workers will strike beginning on Thursday unless a last-minute agreement is reached. Meanwhile, the Canadian National Railway issued its own notice tonight to the Teamsters Union, saying it could start locking out workers on the same day. The Democratic National Convention begins tomorrow in Chicago, where excitement is high to officially name Kamala Harris as the party's presidential nominee. It comes as polls are suggesting a rebound for the Democrats. The CBC's Katie Simpson reports.
Cutting through a cloudy and drizzly Sunday in Chicago, the very real sense of joy and relief emanating from Democrats ahead of their party's convention.
The mood is very, 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 very excited.
It feels like people are definitely just excited that someone new is in the ticket and has like a better chance to win.
Vice President Kamala Harris heads into the DNC with a newfound sense of momentum. Democrats are doing better in national and swing state polls ever since President Joe Biden stepped aside and endorsed her. When you first learned that Kamala Harris would be the candidate, what did you think and how did you feel?
I said, of course she is. I said, of course she is. A black woman has to come in and fix everything again.
I'm really excited to see a woman up there. I'm really excited to see a person of color. And to me personally, as a voter, what's going to make my vote is somebody that I can tell my children I'm not embarrassed as my president.
President Biden is one of the party elders who will deliver a primetime speech this week, along with Barack and Michelle Obama and Bill and Hillary Clinton. But the official message of this gathering could be overshadowed.
So what I'm expecting is that we're going to have thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people out in that beautiful park right there.
Protesters angry with the White House for its support of Israel in the war in Gaza will march around the convention site. No change in plans just because Democrats have a new candidate.
So many people who feel like they've been abandoned by the Democratic Party, and I think that they're going to withhold their vote.
Protesters will not be allowed into the secure perimeter, which is typical for a modern political convention, and hopes remain high. All will remain peaceful.
Some people who live near the protest area did say they have security concerns. They're worried about crowd size and whether things become volatile, if not even violent. Protest organizers told us they're not worried so much about violence. Their main concern is how they're going to be treated by police. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Chicago.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Israel on yet another mission to stem the Israel-Gaza crisis. He's pushing for a new ceasefire and hostage deal at a time the White House is calling a critical moment. Katie Nicholson reports.
First, the blast. Then the screams. A scramble to get children to safety in a residential central Gaza neighborhood. A weekend of missile strikes has killed dozens, according to the Gaza Ministry of Health. Among them, a mother and her 6 children, their bodies wrapped in white. An entire civilian family, says their grandfather, the oldest of whom was 15 years old and the youngest a year and a half. What was their crime? Underscoring the urgency of a ceasefire, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is back in Israel. His 9th such trip to the region since October. This time, hoping to nudge what negotiators are calling a bridging proposal over the finish line. Backed by Egypt and Qatar, the plan includes a ceasefire and release of hostages and prisoners. But there are sticking points, notably disputes over which Palestinians the Israelis are willing to release, and Israel's desire to maintain a military presence in Gaza. But the pressure is on.
The Biden administration wants to remove this issue from the campaign agenda of Kamala Harris. And for the sake of America maintaining its relationship with the rest of the Arab world, the war has to come to an end.
Before a Sunday cabinet meeting, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Hamas obstinate. But many believe he too is obstinate. Angry anti-government protesters lit a fire in Tel Aviv Saturday and demanded an immediate deal for the safe return of the hostages. Like Rami Gonen, who just turned 24 in captivity, her family determined to celebrate.
We could choose stay at home and, be alone with our pain, but we chose different.
After 10 excruciating months, a choice to keep hope alive. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
India saw more protests today, with residents outraged over the rape and murder of a 31-year-old trainee doctor at a medical college earlier this month. One of the largest protests was in Kolkata, where the incident happened. Yesterday, doctors held a nationwide strike, and an association of junior doctors stayed off the job today. And that anger resonating here at home as protesters hit downtown Toronto. This was the scene at Nathan Phillips Square today. A group gathered with signs to hold a silent protest and raise awareness about violence against women.
The sheer brutality of the incident itself makes us shiver. We want a fair and expedited investigation. We want justice for the victim.
Hopefully, we give our next generation a better world.
The attack has revived the anger that followed a gang rape on a bus a decade ago in India. Since then, the country's government introduced changes to the criminal justice system, including tougher sentences, but many say little has changed. Protesters would like to see tougher laws to deter a rising tide of violence against women. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Toronto Argonauts have reinstated their quarterback, Chad Kelly, with conditions after he was suspended back in May for violating the CFL's gender-based violence policy. The league announced in a statement today that Kelly was cleared to return on a, quote, last chance agreement, where he's expected to meet a number of ongoing conditions, but those conditions are confidential and will not be disclosed. Kelly's suspension followed an independent investigation into a lawsuit accusing him of sexual harassment. It was filed by a former strength and conditioning coach. In a statement issued by the team, Kelly apologized and said he's committed to being a better person. And your Toronto Blue Jays were in Chicago this weekend for their series against the Cubs. While they didn't get the series win, the rookies spent some time taking part in a rite of passage.
Hey, it's night. Hey.
The Rookie Coffee Run is a Wrigley Field tradition where MLB teams send their rookies in full uniform on a quest to get some coffee while visiting Chicago. The Jays rookies were no exception, of course, but aside from completing this task, they also took the time to take some pictures and they also signed some autographs for some lucky fans. All right, time for our last look at weather tonight. Sophia has been telling us that it's going to cool off a little bit. I'm not sure I'm quite ready for that, but let's start with all that rain that we had.
Yeah, well, let's start with some of these stats. This is a mind-boggling amount of rain. Nearly half a meter of rainfall, the rainiest summer on record, blowing out the previous record from 2008. And folks, there's still going to be more rain this summer. This incredible, mind-boggling total is still going to continue to grow. The majority of all of that rain, as we said earlier in the show, came down. This is a summer's worth of rain, and there's still more of it to add up from the totals that we're still watching and calculating from today. But the majority of this came in just a few hours yesterday afternoon, a summer's worth of rain in an afternoon. Incredible stat. We're not totally out of the clear in the nation's capital region. Still a few storms and stray showers that could come in. But then really, this is a story of high pressure in place, wringing out the atmosphere. Cooler northwest flow. And boy, will you feel it. Look at this, barely into the double digits for some of you Monday morning. This is brisk sweater weather for the next few mornings. Afternoon conditions about 5 degrees below seasonal. Plenty of sunshine. But these are some fresh and brisk overnight sleeping conditions into the single digits into the north. The cool down continues Tuesday as well, with temperatures anywhere from 5 to 7 degrees below seasonal. And have a look at the majority of this work week. Yes, lots of sunshine, but it's like we've turned a calendar page into mid-September. These are September-like highs and temperatures. We don't build back into the warmth until next weekend. Plenty of hours of sunshine, though, for things to continue to dry out, as thousands of homeowners are just now starting the cleanup and the insurance nightmare again after this historic and significant flooding weekend.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching.